Hi everyone, it is still October 8, 2019. I'm going to read some of these quotes, expressions of concern from scientists, physicians, health policy experts on EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, Wi-Fi, smart meters, cell phones, cell towers, Gwen towers, doing an awful lot of damage to all life. And then I'm going to show you what's happening to our four-leggeds, the fish that swim, the birds that fly, the insects, all of which are included in our ecosystem, and they are dying because of us, the two-legged. And that pisses me off. Okay. So I'm not even going to read the names. You can check out who these people are because their names are right on top of the quotes. Sensitivity to electromagnetic radiation is the emerging health problem of the 21st century. It is imperative health practitioners, governments, schools, and parents learn more about it. The human health stakes are significant. And these quotes come from many years ago. Cells in the body react to EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, as potentially harmful, just like to other environmental toxins, including heavy metals and toxic chemicals. The DNA in living cells recognizes electromagnetic fields at very low levels of exposure and produces a biochemical stress response. We're all stressed. You may not feel stressed. Your body is stressed because of the saturation of these man-made artificial electromagnetic frequencies. So even if you're not feeling bad, you are asymptomatic. These frequencies are altering every cell in your body. So eventually, you will go over to the other side and be symptomatic. And the problem is a lot of people are symptomatic, but they're not attributing it to the invisible electromagnetic frequencies. So the scientific evidence tells us that our safety standards are inadequate and that we must protect ourselves from exposure to electromagnetic frequency due to power lines, cell phones, and the like, or risk the known consequences. The science is very strong, and we should sit up and pay attention. Mainstream media, they report that the science is weak, that there's no real evidence that these frequencies are affecting us. And guess what? There is evidence up the wazoo. But mainstream media, they've got to lie to you to tell you that, well, there's no real evidence. And then they have their experts on that say they're safe. Oh, and then they say that it meets the safety standards when there's so much evidence that the FCC has not changed their safety standards since 1998. Has our environment changed a bit? Yes. So don't you think the standards needed to be changed? Yes, it needed to be changed, but they haven't. All right. There must be an end to the pervasive nonchalance, indifference, and lack of heartfelt respect for the plight of people who are sensitive to these frequencies. It is clear something serious has happened and is happening. Every aspect of electro-hypersensitive people's lives, including the ability to work productively in society, have healthy relationships, and find safe, permanent housing, is at stake. The basics of life are becoming increasingly inaccessible to a growing percentage of the world's population. But you hear crickets. Fields associated with electricity are commonly called extremely low frequency fields, while those used in communication and microwave ovens are called radio frequency fields, RF. Studies of people have shown that ELF and RF exposures result in an increased risk of cancer, and that this occurs at intensities that are too low to cause tissue heating. All of our exposure standards are based on the false assumption that there are no hazardous effects at intensities that do not cause tissue heating. Yes, what we hear, the thermal, there's non-thermal and thermal aspects to these frequencies. But all they do is focus on, well, mainstream media, the telecommunications industry, and government officials. They only focus on the thermal. If you're not getting your tissues heated, then it's safe. Nothing could be further from the truth. Current guidelines urgently need to be re-examined by government and reduced to reflect the state of the science. There is an emerging public health crisis at hand, and time is of the essence. That was years ago. And now we're rolling out 5G. Electromagnetic radiation is a very serious human and environmental health issue that needs immediate attention by Congress. The Bioinitiative report is a major milestone in understanding the health risks for wireless technology. Every responsible elected official owes it to his or her constituents to learn and act on its finding and policy recommendations. All living cells, and indeed whole living beings, no matter what genus or species, are dynamic, coherent electrical systems utterly reliant on bioelectricity for life's most basic metabolic processes. It turns out that most living things are fantastically sensitive to vanishingly small electromagnetic frequency exposures. Living cells interpret such exposures as part of our normal cellular activities. Think heartbeats, brain waves, cell division itself, etc. The problem is man-made electromagnetic exposures aren't normal. They are artificial artifacts with unusual intensities, signaling characteristics, pulsing patterns, and waveforms that don't exist in nature, and they can misdirect cells in myriad ways. Every aspect of the ecosystem may be affected, including all living species, from animals, humans, plants, and even microorganisms in water and soil. We are already seeing problems in sentinel species from birds, bats, bees. Wildlife is known to abandon areas when cell towers are placed. Radio frequency radiation, all things wireless today, is known. It's a known immune system suppressor, among other things. I'm not reading full quotes here. There is no question electromagnetic frequencies have a major effect on neurological functioning. They slow our brain waves and affect our long-term mental clarity. How many of you are experiencing that? I am. We should minimize exposures as much as possible to optimize neurotransmitter levels and prevent deterioration of health. And parents are giving their children iPhones, iPads, and these children have their faces right smack in front of the screen with these frequencies going into a brain that has not even developed yet. The key point about electromagnetic pollution that the public has to realize is that it is not necessary that the intensity be large for biological interaction to occur. There is now considerable evidence that extremely weak signals can have physiological consequences. The public's continuing exposure to electromagnetic radiation is largely connected to money. Indeed, the tens of billions of dollars in sales one finds in the cell phone industry makes it mandatory to corporate leaders that they deny, in knee-jerk fashion, any indication of hazard. They're lying. Lying to all of us. Very recently, new research is suggesting that nearly all the human plagues were emerged in the 20th century, like common acute lymphoblastic leukemia in children, female breast cancer, malignant melanoma, and asthma can be tied to some facet of our use of electricity. There is an urgent need for governments and individuals to take steps to minimize community and personal electromagnetic frequency exposures. There is every indication that cell phones cause brain tumors, salivary gland tumors, and eye cancer. Yet, because the cell phone industry provides a substantial portion of research funding, this reality is hidden from the general public. They are lying about the electromagnetic saturation that we now live in and can't escape. Many of us can't escape. There are still areas where there's very little of that. But for those of us who can't escape, many are now experiencing the symptoms. So our environment has been made dangerous for all of us with the Wi-Fi and the smart meters and the cell phones and the cell towers and the antennas and the Gwen towers and all of the gadgets and our appliances now. All about money and, well, ultimately, everybody will find out. Control of everyone. Because everything has sensors and everything is spying on you. Ain't that great? Isn't it a fabulous world that we are developing? Well, I don't like it. The radio frequency radiation safety policy in force in the United States fails to protect the public. January 2008 report issued by the National Academy of Sciences Committee, whose task was to examine the needs and gaps in the research on the biological effects of exposure to these antennas, points out that the research studies to date do not adequately represent exposure realities. The Venice resolution, initiated by the International Commission for Electromagnetic Safety, June 6, 2008, now signed by nearly 50 peer-reviewed scientists worldwide, states in part, we are compelled to confirm the existence of non-thermal effects of electromagnetic fields on living matter, which seem to occur at every level of investigation, from molecular to epidemiological. Recent epidemiological evidence is stronger than before. Oh, the evidence is now very strong. We recognize the growing public health problem known as electrohypersensitivity. Apply the precautionary principle? Wow. Well, only a people that is wise and a people that cares about something other than money would apply that principle, but we don't apply it. Not even in schools. Ah, the children, developing brains. Blast them with Wi-Fi, with the routers right smack over their heads. Great. Claims that cell phones pose no health hazards are supported solely by specific absorption rate, which, you know, the heating up of our tissue. No. Limit safety standards written by the telecommunications industry decades ago based on studies they funded. These have made the erroneous assumption that the only harm that could come from the cell phone radio frequency emissions would be from a thermal or heating action, since non-thermal fields can have no biological effects. The late Dr. Ross Addy disproved this 3 decades ago by demonstrating that the very similar radio frequency fields with certain carrier and modulation frequencies that had insufficient energy to produce any heating could cause the release of calcium ions from cells. That's very bad. Since then, numerous research reports have confirmed that non-thermal fields from cell phones, tower transmitters, power lines, and other man-made sources can significantly affect various tissues and physiologic functions. It is not generally appreciated that there is a cumulative effect, and that talking on a cell phone for just an hour a day for 10 years can add up to 10,000 watts of radiation. That's 10 times more than from putting your head in a microwave oven. What are we doing to children? How dare we do this to children? But people are fine with destroying children with this kind of electromagnetic frequency, altering their brains, their cells, and giving them cancer. So, when you hear mainstream media say, oh, no evidence to prove that this is dangerous, you better think that they are lying to you. I hope you think that, I've spotted a mainstream media reporter lying about the dangers. And then I hope that you take it away from your children, these gadgets. You demand that the school get Wi-Fi replaced with a grounded internet. Very simple to do. Hey, but money. Money, money, money. The schools get money from the telecom industry when they park a cell tower on the school property. And all of that Wi-Fi, well, it's also about spying on your children and collecting all the data. But why, when we know that Wi-Fi is dangerous, why can't we get through to parents? Why can't parents organize in their own communities and demand that their schools that they send their children to, that you pay property taxes on, and you know what? Doesn't matter if you don't have children, you're paying property taxes for those schools. You have a right to demand Wi-Fi get removed. So, of course, you need everybody to stand united, and that's our main problem. So, telecom industry hid data on cell phones causing brain tumors before cell phones hit the market. And significant decrease of clinical symptoms after mobile phone base station removal, biological effects, and print out, have on hand for those who roll their eyes. And I document, I leave the links below. Bioinitiative report. Wow, the studies, over 2,000, and they're claiming that there are hardly any studies that show a biological effect. They're lying. There are thousands and thousands of studies that prove that these frequencies are causing a lot of physical damage, cognitive damage, brain damage, cancers, tumors, and a whole lot of other problems. I have a playlist on my Never Lose Truth channel, which I will link to, and I have 358 videos. Scientists doctors, my own research, from studies, independent scientists, researchers. So, there's no excuse for anyone. No excuse. Because the evidence we have. No excuse for parents. You want to believe the lying mainstream media reporters? You want to believe the experts that mainstream media put on mainstream media news? You want to believe people who have an agenda, who will make money from the selling of all of these products? Fine. You don't want to believe the independent scientists. And there are an awful lot of them that say repeatedly the damage that this is doing to children is significant. You don't want to believe that your own children are being harmed. You're not someone who should have had children. You should not have children because you are not protecting your children. And that is your main job, your primary, number one responsibility as a parent. Protect your children. Yeah. 60 birds, the majority of them long-billed Corella, died in a suspected poisoning. Dying birds fall from the sky screaming and bleeding from their eyes. An horrific incident in Australia. 60 birds. Okay, they're suspecting poisoning. After falling from the sky, screaming and bleeding from their eyes and beaks. All fell at the same time. Poison would not have that effect. They would get sick. And the timing wouldn't be all of them falling at the same time. I am so sick of these mainstream media reporters that never look at the frequencies. Now, birds can be flying and they can be blasted with microwaves coming from cell towers or Gwen towers or satellites. And they will fall from the sky screaming and bleeding from their eyes and beaks. Very few died immediately. Most died after. For a long time, they suffered. Only 2 or 3 were actually deceased. The rest were just screaming on the ground. They couldn't fly anymore. They were bleeding out of their mouths. What we were seeing was something out of a horror movie. Victims of targeted poisoning. 2011, as many as 5,000 birds fell to the earth on New Year's Eve in Arkansas. Remember? I posted on it. So many people were posting on it. The phenomenon occurred in the town of BB, which had a population of 5,000, mirroring the number of avian casualties and bringing predictions of bad omens and the end of the world. It was blamed on loud fireworks. Loud fireworks. Okay. It's a mystery, or they come up with the most absurd loud fireworks. 5,000 birds drop dead from loud fireworks. And we have seen, and I have shown on my channel, the frequencies that are blasting on the radar sites. Bees drop dead around 5G towers.
Our new research shows and predicts that 6.8 million birds per year are being killed at communication towers. And that's a number that's 27 times larger than the number of birds that were killed in the Exxon Valdez spill. So these large communication towers are used for television and radio broadcast. The risk of these towers to the birds goes up with their height. So the taller the tower, the greater the probability that it gets up into the elevation, the altitude where birds are migrating. The heights here are really kind of hard to comprehend if you're not standing next to them. We're talking about things that are going almost half a mile into the sky. So these are predominantly insectivores, small birds that will eat insects. They keep our forests healthy. They're often quite beautiful, blues and yellows and reds and whatnot, and they'll fit in your hand.
Okay. I'm going to link. You can watch the entire video by clicking on the links. But what did you see here? What you saw was a Gwen tower. These are Gwen towers, different from cell towers. Gwen towers, depending on the intensity and the frequency, not only can they kill birds, but they can kill everything within a 40-mile radius of each tower. And we've got these all littering our country. These are weapons. So when you're driving and you see these things, these are weapons. And they can kill all of you instantly in a 40-mile radius. I don't like the fact that these things are killing other species. I don't like the fact that, well, man, just doesn't care. Doesn't care about the birds that the two-legged is killing. So, do we need this miracle to increase the consciousness of the two-legged? Yeah, we do. Somehow, they have to care about life dying. Oh, but I don't care because I'm not affected. Okay, that's a very damaged two-legged. And that's our problem, because most people are just like that. Don't care because I ain't affected. Well, you can, you want to, children, cancer, bees dying, all right. Here is this site, mass animal deaths, which is, it doesn't even list all of them. All right, below is a list of worldwide mass animal deaths for 2019. And as I was looking at this, and this is very hard for me, I don't really like seeing, especially reading an article about birds that clearly were suffering, because that's something that really, well, affects me. And I sometimes think, why can't I be someone who just turns my head, ignores it? Because I know ultimately what happens. When you ignore what is happening, it continues. I don't want to see birds dropping out of the sky. Nor do I want to see 60 plus thousand cattle die due to flooding, Nambia, or hundreds of pigs dead due to swine fever. All of this is September. I came across this, 4 whales dead after stranding on a beach in South Carolina. Wow. And the links are here. 4 whales dead. South Carolina. Oh, God. All right. I'll post the link. Maybe you can get it, but I can't. All right. But Maybe the impact is when you see the 4 whales dead on the beach. Yeah, it brings a more intense impact. And that impact is really important. Well, when was this? The 29th of September. All right. I have been posting, showing radar and showing, wow, our radar sites, the extremely low frequencies, are off the charts now. So something has happened. I posted on Never Lose Truth the Navy doing their sonar testing off the Atlantic. Well, what do we know about sonar? What do we know about extremely low frequencies? I want you to see. This is the 26th at 1:30 a.m. Okay, something is happening here off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia and Florida. These are very powerful, extremely low frequencies that you are seeing blasting away 1:30 a.m. Extremely low frequencies are these very long, defined lines. That's the 26th. Let me just show you. Here, again, the 26th. More extremely low frequencies going on. And this is at 9 o'clock p.m. Extremely low frequencies again, which can kill life in the ocean. But hey, let's not look at our military. What our military is doing, let's ignore what our military is doing and just call it a mystery. And that's what mainstream media has been doing over and over and over again. Does military sonar kill marine wildlife? The frequencies used in military testing could be harmful to some animals. Sound waves, extremely low frequencies, can travel for hundreds of miles underwater and can retain an intensity of 140 decibels as far as 300 miles from their source. 300 miles. So you do the research, which is on my channel, by the way, the playlists, extremely low frequencies from those very tall towers that are killing birds. Well, those extremely low frequencies from Gwen Towers have that very long mileage. And how long? 300 miles. 300 miles. Isn't it interesting? Rolling walls of noise are no doubt too much for some marine wildlife. While little is known about any direct physiological effects of sonar waves bullshit, because we've got, and I've posted military documents, the military funding these scientists to do the studies on biological effects of extremely low frequencies, microwave frequencies, 5G. But, well, mainstream media, they have to, fudge. If they're telling a little bit of truth, they're not going to tell the whole truth. Okay, so while little is known about any direct physiological effects of sonar waves on marine species, evidence shows that whales will swim hundreds of miles, rapidly change their depth, sometimes leading to bleeding from the eyes and ears. Birds fall from the sky, bleeding from their beaks and their eyes. And whales will even beach themselves to get away from the sounds of sonar. January 2005, 34 whales of 3 different species became stranded and died along North Carolina's Outer Banks during nearby offshore Navy sonar training. And, well, the military does whatever the hell the military wants to. And mainstream media, they just, well, there's a wall. We ain't going to the military. We're just going to call everything a mystery. We don't understand. Could be poisoning. Could be this. Could be that. when we also have mainstream media also, hey, why not look at what our military is doing? Why not check out what these extremely low frequencies are actually doing? Hey, 27th, 2:07 a.m., blasting away extremely low frequencies. 27th. So these whales beached themselves on the 29th. What a surprise. What a surprise. 27th, 9:48 p.m. Extremely low frequencies, North Carolina, and let's see if we can get it over to the East Coast. Come on. Yeah. All right, you're gonna have to trust me on that, because you're just gonna have to trust me on it. But 28th at 3:01 a.m. extremely low frequencies blasting into the Atlantic off South Carolina coast. 28th at 10:48, extremely low frequencies blasting away off the South Carolina, North Carolina coast. The 29th, 12:21 a.m., extremely low frequencies blasting away. High exposure for aquatic life. High exposure. And yeah, the 29th, sorry, this is the 12:21 a.m. and boy, whales found beached South Carolina coast. All right, guys, it's hard to take, very hard to take. Can't get anybody to really care, so 40,000 fish found dead, reservoir, Colombia. Tons of dead fish wash ashore, Vietnam. Thousands of dead fish found, Turkey. 130 plus dolphins dead in mass beach stranding. A mystery. It's a mystery on the island of Cape Verde. 15 dead whales found on the coast, Georgia. Wow. 27th September. I showed you the extremely low frequencies. Blasting Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, 27th. 2.3 million animals dead due to forest fires in Bolivia. Mass die-off of farmed salmon. All the salmon are dying. Newfoundland, Labrador, Canada. 2 whales killed after stranding on beach in Hawaii. Thousands of dead fish, Spain. Hundreds of dead fish, India. Mass die-off, Indonesia, of fish. Tens of thousands of fish dead, Greece. 3 billion birds died off during past 50 years in America. Did you hear that? 3 billion birds have died off in the past 50 years in America. You know, you can go through and you can see what's happening. 282 seals found dead during past year on beaches in Alaska. Spain, England, Canada, South Africa, Hungary, Philippines, Taiwan. And a lot of people, they'll claim it's the end times. I claim it's The two-legged not protecting our planet, Earth. The poisons, the frequencies, the militaries around the world, the lack of care coming out of the two-legged to protect other species. All links are below.